Hello, I'm Hilton Supra, the Vice Chairman of Student Group, and I'm looking forward to interviewing today Rehan Haque, the CEO and founder of Metatalent.ai, where we interview people who are changing the world, people that are inspiring us with their achievements and creativity and acumen with the use of technology. In previous interviews, Dennis Guardo and I have interviewed over 200 amazing people and achieved more than 13 million views on YouTube. This interview series on Citiesabc is in partnership with our other platforms, Open Business Council, Fashion ABC, which are all fourth industrial revolution platforms utilizing technologies that employ the use of truth and trust through blockchain and the deployment of data analytics, AI and machine learning. So stay tuned to the podcast release soon, and don't forget to check out Citiesabc YouTube channel, citiesabc.com and openbusinesscouncil.org. So today I'd like to introduce you all to Rehan Haque. He's a thought leader and over the last 15 years involved in global strategic and operational leadership and a lot of experience in cybersecurity and risk governance. He has a Master of Science specializing in distributed information systems in the UK from Brunel University, and he's contributed significantly to re-engineering and doing transformational solutions for infrastructure and in various corporate sectors with the likes of the British Petroleum, BMI, Provident Financial Group, and Deloitte. Now, he founded Metatalent, an AI-powered talent marketplace, enabling the future workforce to essentially become much more in tune with the future of work and in terms of workforce transformation solutions that they have actually started that in 2017. Apart from that, he's a volunteer, and he works as an associate founder for the AllNafi, which is the first and only multilingual e-learning platform, which we'll talk about later. So in the past, he's worked with other companies like the London chapter of ISACA since 2012 and other non-profit organizations, principally focusing on IT governance. I think it's really important that we focus on a little bit on that later in the interview. So, Rehan, it's a great pleasure to meet you. Finally, we missed out last time because of technology, funny enough. It's now working. Welcome.
When we travel, sometimes you have to rely on the technology. Sometimes backfire, but apologies. But luckily, we made it now. We are here, back in town.
Absolutely. So tell me, Rehan, can you tell us a little bit more about how this all started? Where were you born and your education? Just walk us through so we get to know a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. So thanks indeed, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here. So I born in Pakistan, and I came to UK back in 2004 to do my degree in information systems. I started off my career in commerce before I started hitting the road as far as information system is concerned. And I was really good in maths, basically numbers, mental maths, and a knack of financial accounting. But when we make decisions, sometimes you never know what has been written in your life, basically. So when I came to the UK, my life was completely different because of either you call it the peer pressure or something else was in my life. I made a decision to go to Brunel and did my master's degree in distributed information systems. And that was it. That was the starting point, because I was the first one in Brunel who did degree and did my basically dissertation or final project in information security, because I wanted to make a decision which could summarize what I did before coming to the UK in commerce and what I have done in information systems. So the combination was the IT audit. That was the starting point. And after that, I didn't look back. All the decisions I made in my life, basically all choices, primarily governance, security, risk, and move on then.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, this is very interesting because when you were growing up in Pakistan, when did you first start getting involved in technology? How old were you?
Yeah, it was basically it's strange, really strange because when I came, it was I think late to 2000, 2001, to basically I started coming into the technology, and I bought first of my domain URL chipku.com. That was the time I bought it, and I had a dream that, because I've seen that people help me a lot, so I wanted to pay back. That once I get a chance in my life, I'll pay back to the community, my younger generation, back in 2000. And now we are doing, this is the Metatalent.ai. It's just like mentoring is integral part of this platform. So I'm so glad that the dream I had back in 2000, it is now there now.
Brilliant. This is very exciting. So what was this is the dream that you had in terms of starting and creating something that can really empower people, help people become more educated, more resourceful, in particularly in the corporate environment. So how did Metatalent get started?
So when we talk about the Metatalent, basically, as you rightly mentioned, I have spent nearly 15 years in my career. Used to work for Deloitte, British Petroleum. So I used to sit on both sides of the table, from a corporate side, from a professional services. I used to work for Mazars. I sit in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, US, Switzerland, Germany, UK, Pakistan. I work across the globe. I used to really closely work with the UK government in implementing cybersecurity strategy, become part of industry panel member to influential universities. I noticed there was a growing problem. When I used to interact with them, there was so much need that what will happen as far as future is concerned? Do we have right level of mindset? Do we have right level of workforce who would be willing to join the organizations? Because we can't deny that everything has a technology element. Every consumer product has a technology. If you zoom in 3 years time, we expecting a lot of robots right next to us. That was the mindset if I talk about a few years ago. But after COVID, life is completely different. We have a lot of dependency as far as technology is concerned. Right now, we talk about having data center in space. So the increasing use of technology and automation, they would mean there's a shift as far as from low skills, routine job to high skill, non-routine, basically competition for the human capital. That was one of the reasons to think about what we could do by having a professional hat on as far as transformation is concerned. I did from the last 15 years transformation from every single domain as far as my career span is concerned. On top of that, after COVID, that great pause was just a hit on the nail, basically. That we came up with the Metatalent.ai, basically, to make sure we are enabling future workforce for the future work by having transformational solutions on the plate, basically.
Okay, I understand. So if you think about, I mean, from people like myself who've been in industry for quite many years, I remember in the early days, even back in the 80s and 90s, that companies were ready, or people or agencies were already profiling people in terms of their different characteristics, in terms of who they are, their motivation, how are they driven, and all those sort of metrics, and coming up with some form of score in terms of how talented they are for certain types of roles or certain types of jobs. And then obviously that became much more digital, and the use of digital solutions to make that process more robust and more scalable. In your case at Metatalent, do you use any of that level of profiling an individual based on their education, their emotional intelligence, their skills, etc.?
Absolutely. That's we do, basically. We are, as I mentioned, we are a talent marketplace, which is backed by AI. That's we do. Without profiling, without behavior and analytics, the mindset, we can't do it. The new currency in the market is a skills. Job has gone, because we have to evolve along. Our skills must evolve with us when we talk about the jobs as far as future is concerned. So all the ingredients, when you talk about the Metatalent.ai, basically, we are creating future-ready, self-sustaining human capital who could reskill and up skills within months, basically. They don't need to wait for the years, basically. That's the way. We are using immersive technologies, cognitive technological advancement. We are making sure every single user understands the green skills, because we live in an eco-friendly environment. That's the future we are looking for, and who are ready to be deployed at leading organizations.
So you must think about a baseline of what I call academic rigor to the approach that you've put in place in terms of the institutions, and obviously there's a significant amount of papers written on in this particular area. So where do you get this information, and how do you apply it, and what institutions do you work with in order to get that onboarded into the process at Metatalent?
Yeah. So the way we do work, because everyone is unique for us. We don't believe that he or she has, if they, as far as education background is concerned, we make sure everyone has capabilities, everyone has the right skills. It's up to us how we polish those skills, basically. So what we do, basically, we go to universities, we go to different pockets of learners and talent, basically. We perform best practices based assessment to understand who they are, what they are looking for, what's the career expectation looks like in coming 3 years' time. So we have a best practices based questionnaire, which we run down with them. After getting information from them, we realize that's the career path looks like, and we perform some further assessment rather than taking a criteria of educations, basically. Because education is one criteria, that's not the showstopper.
Sure.
Regardless of having different universities, the best universities, or not everyone gets is lucky enough to go into the best universities. That's why we make sure the mindset, the transformational mindset, how we can understand the level of maturity as far as skills are concerned, that's we have defined. And that information goes to the mentor. All our mentor have more than 10 years of work experience. They understand their mindset, they hold their hand, because when we talk about especially the Generation Z, who acquire the new skills, basically, they live with the decision fatigue. They have a lot of information. They live in a social media life. Just come up with information. It's so hard for them to make a decision. That's why make sure we have a mentor who is willing to make their career path based on the best practices, based on what's the level of maturity we have come up as far as assessment is concerned.
Yeah, this is very interesting. You talk about the Generation Z. How would you define that for the benefit of because everybody uses Gen Z or whatever, the sort of, what age are you looking at when you say you're Gen Z generation?
So we start from Metatalent.ai. We start from age of 18. Right. If I talk about in nearly three years' time, interestingly, Generation Z is a unique generation, basically. They live in a borderless environment. They are fully digitized, right? So according to research, by 2025, within 3 years' time, in developed countries, more than 27% workforce will be Generation Z. They can leave a job within a day. They don't bother. They go for values. They go for what satisfies them. They just want a quick one. They're happy. They don't bother about the salaries. If I compare with the previous generation, they want some security. They don't take risk, but they're happy to take the risk, basically.
Well, yes, I can understand. So basically, they are looking, the metrics that they use to choose the work that they do is based more on the basic fundamental reward mechanism, as we've all familiar with, which is financial and security, but more to do with other metrics which include
diversity, the values, ways of living is concerned, basically, flexibility. And one of the most important criteria they come up is work-life balance. They don't basically compromise when it comes up. They're happy to get rid of, as far as funds are concerned, the financial element is concerned. Based on what I've seen, I heard from different organizations, they have left the job. If there's a lot of noise in the office, they left the job. I can't resist. That's the mindset we're expecting. And this generation is coming more as far as a DNA of any organization, the corporate culture is concerned.
This is a challenging shift in the patterns of work and working behavior. And in particular, with COVID, that tended to accelerate the digitization and the transformation of the way in which people work.
Absolutely. Here, when we, because we, if I talk about the globally, millions of jobs are unfilled right now. It's hard for organizations to find, but they have to compromise, because sometimes organizations don't know where the gaps as far as their workforce is concerned. So when we talk about when they bring these people, there is a mismatch. So two biggest problem corporate world is facing right now: getting access on talented or the skilled workforce and keeping them on board, retention. And when we talk about the retention, they have to live with the previous generation Y, Z, the previous one, the alphas one. So organization has to work a lot as far as on ground is concerned to make sure that all are knitted together as far as DNA is concerned. They have to focus a lot on the values, what they're looking for, and how we knit it as far as what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting because those patterns of work are changing. You see, we'd call this the gig economy to some extent, where people basically take on short-term contracts or turn to be long-term contracts. But in that process of doing that, there are other benefits that they don't have, which is the security, it's the pensions and insurance and things like that, number one. Number two, the employment laws of various countries tend to protect more employees than people who are involved in the gig economy.
Absolutely. And because one of our clients, the CEO of a bank, and they said, Rehan, do you mind, is it possible for you to tweak your training? Because and by making sure Generation Z understand what are the regulatory requirements as far as local and globals are concerned, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so difficult for them because they are short span as far as decision making is concerned, and they are a bit fragile when we talk about the Generation Z. But we have to rely on them because they have a really sharp mind. They're born in a digital era, right? So that's the way they normally think, that just make a decision and move on. But so difficult for them. That's why the way we have created our training, because we as a marketplace, we upskill, reskill, cross-skill, and help talent to acquire new skills, basically. And what we have done uniquely is so difficult to find across the globe right now. Our platform, we have more than 25, 30 skills framework we mapped into one with the help of AI algorithm, basically. And that is that skills based training is fully aligned with the career roadmap, which when mentor recommends new generation, they understand what are the best practices from a regulatory point of view, from a values point of view, from a green skills point of view. All these bits has been fully ingrained into it. So within a month, they understand what are the power skills, how to sell themselves, what are the green skills looks like, and what are the values they have to live with. From a human point of view, from a corporate point of view, that's the way we do basically work.
Yes. But explain to me then, in terms of this model way of working, obviously these are people who are working in teams, they're working in collective spaces, collaborating. How do you recognize of this talent, the leaders?
So what we do, we make sure that, as I mentioned before, everyone is unique for us. Everyone has a leader, because that's new generation, or when we talk about the existing workforce, they are the leader, they are the future workforce. For example, if I talk about 85% of jobs, we don't know yet how they looks like in 2030. Within 3 years' time, 40% of global workforce has to upskill or reskill to survive in the world, because we will be having robots across us. So by keeping that criteria, the mindset, we have to make decisions in such a manner that we understand that whoever learns skill-based training from us and skills-based workplace from us, it works for them. The way money works when we sleep at the bank, that's the way we make sure skills work for them behind the scene for them for the long term rather than one-off. So we make sure we understand every second one who comes to us with the help of Gallup strength assessment and the best practices based assessment. That gives us enough understanding what the behavior looks like, what the technical mindset looks like, what his values looks like, where he or she would like, what's behind the curve inside his heart, basically. That's the way we design our framework, basically.
So a lot of the work that you're doing at Metatalent is understanding the individual, understanding where they've come from and what their skill sets are and how they would, and then when they're doing that particular role or that particular job, what feedback mechanism do you have? Because as people are upskilling and changing and evolving and developing, how are you capturing that change?
Yes, that's a really good point. So once before we start training them after having this because what we do basically, the day we onboard every single one, we integrated basically our performance management, that how we are tracking it has been indulged from day one, mid of the sessions, and in the end, so they can normally get what's happened during the time they have spent with us. It completely depends on the level of maturity, 0 to 5, that yes, when he or she came, as far as skills are concerned, the leadership skills concerned, it wasn't 0. But within a couple of weeks, 2.5 or 1.5, and by end, it is nearly 3.5 or 4. That's the way we make sure it is as far as capturing this information is concerned. And we make sure all the assessments are there. We make sure the behavior analytics are there, and we create a lot of those skills, those initiatives that give them enough opportunity to grow, and they can prove, yes, that's the skill they have integrated. That's the information we normally share with the employer. But employer take it further and make sure the learning and development, once that talent joins the organization, they integrate that information within the L&D, learning and development methodology for them on a continuous basis.
And you get access to that information for that continued assessment?
Yes, that's we do. As I said, there are two key problem organizations live with. First of all, having a talent or workforce, and second, retention. In addressing retention, we work with organizations. We work with the talent to make sure we have a synergy, because we understand talent. We understand the human capital. And thus we make sure we are holding the hand, and the organization is synergizing in such a manner they have a smooth transition. So all the information, the level of maturity, the continuous improvement is fully aligned, ingrained within the L&D learning development within the organization.
I mean, so from your perspective, you've just highlighted two effective areas, which are sort of retention on one hand, and the fact is that the generation can change very quickly the role that they're in. So I presume what Metatalent is trying to do is to make sure that retention cycle is increased.
Absolutely, because that's really good point. We are using Metatalent.ai is a silver bullet for our corporate world. We make sure that often, because we don't want to train them what they don't want to learn. That's why we make sure we spend enough time to understand them from a behavior point of view, from the degree, the education they have got, and on top of that, what's the mindset? So when they start training, first they understand, learn the power skills, then the green skills, then go for their direction, what has been defined, set within the career roadmap with the help of mentor. Once they are ready, they join the organization, and they can hit the road from day one. That's the mindset we have defined in the mindset. When they join the organization works closely with them, because Every organization culture is different, values are different. For us, value is so important. We make sure they work really so closely, and this is one of the biggest concern as far as Generation Z is concerned. Values and behavior, all the and the diversity, from a diversity point of view, is fully ingrained as far as working with them. So we as a platform, first we address the skilled workforce, having the right level of skills which has been defined from the organization, and then making sure the retention is there by making sure they are getting what they are supposed to get on a continuous basis after joining the organization.
This is very interesting. So you need, one of the core basis of your work are two things. It's algorithms and artificial intelligence.
Indeed.
In your case, in order for this to work effectively, you needed a lot of data, at least to get the baseline work done. Where did you get this data from before you actually started the business?
Because we have access a lot of analysis, a lot of analytic data. We have the real data, and we have basically a lot of data we have gathered so far from during the last couple of years, basically. Mm-hmm. So we make sure from all the element, when we go deeper as far as talent is concerned, we understand from all aspects, because we are creating self-sustained workforce. Wherever they go, they will succeed, having the skills, and skills go further as far as level of maturity is concerned. So we make sure what the data in the market, as far as data we have gathered so far, we have the right behavior, the mindset, all the data that we have as far as data points and data sets are concerned. Mm-hmm. That's so, enough time. Yeah,
I understand. So a lot of data. This is very important. So you have your baseline data. And then you have your data that's continuously arriving now from all the interactions and touch points that you have with the employer, the employee, and other areas. Now, when it comes down to the algorithm, some of the issues that have been happening in artificial intelligence is the inherent biases built into the algorithm or in the original data set. So how do you make sure that there's a robustness and integrity in the data that you're using and the algorithms that you're using?
So that's one of the criteria, one of the elements we are focusing a lot in making sure it is seamless, as far as having the right data set is there, having the right algorithm, making sure we are using the right technology, and making sure it works according to our expectation, basically. And we have designed basically architects, we have curriculum designers, and we have all the developers. They work together and making sure we have the right level of data. By having the data and making sure algorithm works seamlessly, as far as the right logic is there, basically.
So, I mean, a lot of this is also very dependent on culture. It's also dependent on the generation attitudes. So your development team, your scientific team, and your data teams, where are they based? And what's the diversity across these teams?
Yeah. So we have team in basically in Pakistan, we have team in the UK, we have team in Canada, and we have team in Sri Lanka, basically. That's the way we make sure, as far as having the right mindset, so important, who understand what we would like to do. Mm-hmm. We make sure we have psychologists who understand the mindset. As far as from a design architect, from a brand point of view, they understand what we are looking for, what's the basically personas looks like. Mm-hmm. As far as the technical mindset is concerned, that's why we focus Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. As far as UK is concerned, from a psychology point of view, from a design architect point of view, that's we are here. In Canada, they are looking from basically from a curriculum is concerned. Okay. Make sure, yes, we have different mindset, ultimate market, US, Canada, UK, rest of the world, but that as a byproduct, basically, we normally get.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you understand my point that the diversity is very, very important in all aspects of your business to ensure that there aren't inherent biases built into or lack of bias, i.e., well, it is bias because one part of the world where you don't have access to data is Africa. So what are you doing about that?
So when we basically collected the data that way, because we, as far as our AI solution is concerned, as a marketplace, so we are basically in a MVP stage. As far we make sure we have data. One of the projects which we are doing in Australia, New Zealand right now. Second project is in Middle East to make sure we are accessing we are having the data. But based on that, we will be hitting the market. Canada to reflect the US market. We are sitting in the UK and the European Union, basically. And Asia from the mindset, because 25% of global population resides in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and India, basically. So we make sure we have all the data sets from a data is concerned, we have, so we can make an informed decision. That's the starting point. We are having the right level of sample, and we're taking it further. We're expanding basically horizontally.
This is very, very interesting. And in terms of that data, a lot of people will be very concerned normally about their personal data being used. Because, or in other institutions, abused.
Yes.
All those characteristics. So how do you help people understand that that obviously you're holding quite a lot of I call intimate information on people, obviously GDPR compliance, et cetera, given, but still it's a lot of personal information. So how do you deal with individuals' identity, individuals' characteristics, and ensuring that that's for them rather than for somebody else?
Yeah, really, really interesting point. So we scramble the data basically. Pseudonymization, basically, we do make sure, because if I talk about myself, I'm certified privacy professional. And we make sure, as far as all the privacy regulations, that's the first stage, and we go further. Every data has been scrambled, make sure we are using the right methodology, we are using the right technology in making sure we are not having the data which we have received. It has been pseudonymized, basically. So make sure from a risk point of view, we have performed a risk assessment. Every week, basically, we perform the risk assessment. We have all the project. We make sure everyone is accountable as far as in integrating the right mindset, the right people, external team member, or basically as far as internal is concerned, everyone understand the right level of security procedures. If we have to have an NDA, do we have another procedures which are in place? For as far as Metatalent.ai is concerned, we make sure we have we talk about transformation. So how on earth is possible for us we as an organization, we don't go without policies and procedures and having the right business processes in place. So that's we did before we hit the road to make sure we have right processes in place. And they have a stringent security control at every stage before we take it further.
That's very interesting. So obviously the Gen Z is your target group. But there's other target groups in terms of age. You don't want to be considered ageist, being very woke. How are you? You must have had a look at the data set that you have and starting to have to capture data beyond that generation, because there's a lot of reskilling that's going to be required for people who are not of an older generation, who still are very talented, want to participate in some form of digital transformation, and businesses, myself included, but will need some guidance from Metatalent. So are you looking at those particular segments of the market?
Absolutely. We talk about, if I talk about technology jobs are concerned, the involvement in technology, I'd like to add at this point of time that nearly 33% of technology jobs filled by the necessary skilled workforce, only 33%. According to World Economic Forum, there would be 150 million jobs within 5 years. And 77% of jobs will require digital skills by 2030. So imagine how the massive pressure of upskilling and reskilling. So when we talk about the Generation Z, we talk about acquiring the new skills. But there's another stream, as you mentioned, who need upskilling or the reskilling. For example, if I'd like to go for some cybersecurity further jobs or qualification or skills, I'll upskill myself. If imagine I'm looking to go into AI, in AI, I have to reskill myself. So that's another provision we have. But before we do so, as I said, we make sure we spend enough time to understand the human, understand the talent. Either we're going for reskilling, upskilling, or acquiring a new skill, basically. That's the mindset. That's the way we profile. We create the DNA of every second one who comes on our platform. And that's so unique, so confidential, so sensitive. We make sure it's fully secure, just like our trademark, basically. That's the provision we have given. We have defined 6 streams. If someone would like to make his career reskill or upskill, imagine you, for me, for others, data sciences, cybersecurity, transformation, software development, NLP, and AI, basically. 6 domains we have defined. We are further expanding ourselves next year as far as down the road is concerned. And make sure every single one understand what are their skills from a human point of view, from a power skills point of view. That's we do. So we make sure the foundation is really firm for everyone, and then we take it further. And the beauty is basically we offer our solution in Metaverse as well. We use Oculus, we use virtual offices. Soon we will having our own space as far as Metaverse is concerned. That's we are taking further as far as that domain is concerned, to make sure
explain to me a little bit more, because I'm very interested in understanding a little bit more about how businesses today will use Web3 based technologies, or 3D, whether you access it through Oculus or other 3D device, how that will have, what impact that has on businesses and the people that are either working in those businesses or the clients that need to access the goods and services of that business. How do you see that playing out in the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, absolutely. As according to Bill Gates, that within by 2023, 24, everyone will have his own avatar screen. That's the indication to go into this world. So everyone will have his own copy or the second version or the cloning as far as that world is concerned. Just like another place, another world, the way we're living here. But the beauty is no one knows who you are, and you can have, without any social limitations, you could have your own cloning, and that's what that world is concerned. As far as as far as Metatalent is concerned, that's one of the reasons to have a Meta in our basically name. We talk about the talent and the Meta to reflect the Metaverse. That's one of the reasons to have. So how
can I just go back one step?
Yeah,
so you're talking about individuals in the Metaverse, and you're talking about avatar. Avatar is just a digital twin of yourself in the digital world. And we talk about the biggest issue is your data, number one, and also your identity. What are you doing to help with that digital identity, whether it's you as an individual or you as an avatar? What are you doing to make sure that that avatar is you?
Yeah, we are at this point of time very early stages as far as Metaverse is concerned. So we are using Oculus as far as skills-based training is concerned, as far as mentoring is concerned. That's the early stages. But we are making sure we are, as far as our personas are concerned, we make sure all the processes, policies, procedures, and regulatory requirement has been fulfilled. As far as the data is concerned, from a privacy point of view concerned, and their identity is concerned. So that's we are taking in a safe environment, basically, step by step, baby steps, and we'll take it further. That's why we like to make sure our foundation is so strong. Then we'll take it further and expand as far as Metaverse is concerned after Oculus, basically, or other devices is concerned. We'll having our own devices soon, by end of next year.
Okay, so I mean, to go back to self-sovereign identity, my identity within this space, my data, what technologies are you using in order to maintain that integrity of the data and integrity of one's identity? What tools are you using for that?
So at this point of time, only encryption is there. But as I said before, we are in so early stages. Definitely go further and find the other solutions, other technology where we can get the level of confidence before we doing it further. That's why we're in an MVP stage as a minimum viable product at this point of time.
No,
before we roll out across, we will definitely make sure to having the right level of basically security and privacy is concerned.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of using the metaverse, it's much more in terms of skills training to make people aware and that they can use this technology and then participate in the workforce, purely because the workforce environment is going to require an understanding of how the metaverse works.
Absolutely spot on, because that's the future we don't want to leave any opportunity to grow and reflect the expectation from a client or from a target audience is concerned. We are happy as far as, if you talk about the globally, we are happy as far as this world is concerned, but that's the future. In coming years, couple of years, that's the starting point. Every organization would have their own space as far as Meta is concerned, Metaverse is concerned. Like to make sure we understand the expectation, and beforehand, Generation Z, who will love to enjoy these things as part of their life, we would like to make sure that, and we understand we are the pioneers basically. And we are giving them the right level of opportunity and translating how they could improve their skills and they redeploy basically.
I want to sort of diversify a little bit here, because you just raised a couple of interesting things. Not everybody is the same. Everybody is, as we know, an individual, and some people may have accessibility issues, i.e., whether it be cognitive or could be physical, could be oral or visual, or even social. How does Metatalent help individuals that have accessibility issues? And how does Metatalent help businesses find or integrate this talent into the workspace, into the workflow?
Thank you so much for asking this question. So basically, we have entertained, and we would love to entertain people who needs our help. So based on our experience, we have seen few basically we have autism, and they are the better than other people. Basically, they have so much focus as far as autism is concerned. So we make sure from our platforms concerned, we have a provision for them. We give priority to them. We are working with transgenders as well. We are talking about LGBT. We give opportunity to everyone who got the right skills. For us, everyone is same. There's no limitations. We make sure they get the best services as far as our platform is concerned. And if they need any support, assistance, we are definitely right next day. And we spend a lot of time with them, and we are taking into different countries, either in Middle East or the Asian countries, to make sure we are there for them and giving them the best skills so they can get the respected job basically.
I mean, this is very interesting. If you look at your talent pool of people that work in Metatalent, and now work in businesses, they've come through the Metatalent network. What percentage of that, compared to the normal, what I call working population, do have accessibility issues?
As far as handy is, if I talk about the 54, 46, 54, as far as diversity is concerned, as far as on top of my head is concerned, men and women. As far as diversity, I need to have a look, but definitely we have a provision that we have to give minimum 5 to 10% as far as diversity and other domains are concerned, basically. LGBT is concerned, and diversity is concerned. That's my understanding. I need to have a look.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. Rather than giving hard numbers to it, I'm just curious, not as a prescriptive, but I would believe that if Metatalent is working correctly, it would most likely have more diversity, more within the talent pool than, I would say, the general working environment of other networks.
Absolutely.
Would that be a fair observation to make?
Indeed, absolutely. As I said, it is part of our values and behavior that make sure we add real value across all the domains. And this is one of the value, basically, that diversity must be part of our DNA as our organizations.
Yeah, it's inherent in your process, because of this is what when I was talking earlier on about the question about the algorithms that are being used and the data sets that you use, that there's no inherent biases built into both the algorithm and also the data set. Because if your data set doesn't have diversity in it, and or algorithm doesn't have any diversity built into it, then of course it won't be representative.
And thus we make sure, we as a senior management team, we make sure it has gone through with our approval. We make sure data reflects the wider audience is concerned. It shouldn't have any biasism. Thus we make sure, and we always make sure we have a performance report to make sure all external investors, inside team, our board of directors, steering committee, they all have access on this data to make sure, yes, we reflect the whole world rather than just having any biasism. So we take it very, very seriously. We feel proud, basically. It's top of our priority to make sure we, as far as diversity and inclusivity is concerned, they must be, we all are equal. There's no second statement. There's no second option either.
Wonderful to hear. In terms of, this has been very interesting, but in terms of in your talent pool, there will be, what I talked about, leaders. You will be leaders out there that are one day would want to have built their own, they have an idea and they want to run their own business. So in terms of startups that you probably do, you probably bump into individuals who are starting startups, or there are startups who are your clients.
Yeah.
Within Metatalent. So do you have any advice for young people today who want to start a business, and what they need to look at in terms of evolving and innovating all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy. If I talk about advice, which I've seen in my life, is believe in myself or believe in yourself. I know my background. I didn't have any prosperity or prosperous background. Even sometime in my life, I didn't have money to eat. I've seen that time as well. Even they have seen 3 or 4 times when my staff was going down, but now the value is minimum 20 million pound. I run 2 platforms. So that's the value I'm having right now. I couldn't have these things if I didn't have belief on myself. If I go back in my Pakistan, the way I have spent my life, the when I came UK, even I still remember. But the only thing was the belief, Rehan, you can do it. You will do it. You must do it. That's it. No second option. And I didn't look back. As far as that's one advice. But when I talk about the Generation Z, sometimes it's difficult for them to believe on these things. I would strongly recommend them, when we make a decision, believe on them and take a risk. That's the human nature. That's the cycle of this universe. When you take a risk, everything works for you. Just like a cog. All cogs works for you because they are a bit scared that, yes, he or she get the right spirit, the mindset. Leave space for him or her, move on. It works. I have seen practically in my life. Otherwise, I was not able to say with passion.
That's very, very, very interesting. So continuously innovate. And because you're in talent and people, so investing in people, which I think is very, very important, evolve and keep learning. Is this really the sort of the core?
Because in this journey, when we talk about either in your life, in your career, everything evolves. That's one of the beauty of our platform, that our skills evolve. The maturity of skills evolves and grow. That's we do. That's we make sure. Whenever someone learns skill-based training, we make sure skills work for them, keep evolving. So we as a human, we have to evolve. And as far as the coming world, there's no second thought. So competitive, truly so competitive for the young generation.
Mm-hmm.
They might not realize right now, but it would be so competitive. The only thing which could help them keep evolving, have enough appetite. Yes, situation could be different. What else we could do to move ahead?
Yes.
Stand out, move on.
And a lot of the stuff that you're talking about is forward-looking. So, and we spent a valuable nearly an hour talking, and I've been really, really fascinated. I'd love to be able to extend it, and we will do it another time. But if you had to put yourself in position of 5 years' time, and you and I were having this conversation in 5 years' time, what would you like to see this evolution that you've brought to the talent and investing in people business?
For us as a platform, we will be in IPO, $1 billion platform, minimum $1 billion, minimum. Second, because I'd like to have millions of people who get support from us, who learn from us, and they made their life and career, and they start making decisions for them. That's the one of the KPI for us. That's we have added value into the community because it works. We do something, they expand. It's just like one-to-many relationship. From a financially, for investors, minimum $1 billion in 5 years' time.
Yes, that sounds wonderful. So how do the people contact you? Are you active in social media? How do people connect with you? So if you just sort of tell us a little bit about the channels of engagement that you use with the overall community.
Yeah. So as such channel is concerned, our website is there, Metatalent.ai. That's one of the entry point. Second, through our LinkedIn. Third, we work actively on social media because I was traveling, otherwise I couldn't focus, but definitely we work actively as far as social media is concerned. And yes, these are the perfect platforms. Our PR company is working really actively for us, and yeah, we have different channels so they could contact us directly, either from a organization or corporate world is concerned, and or from a talent point of view. All of them, they contact directly from there.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Rehan. It's been a really, really, really enjoyable hour. We talked about your vision, you're enabling the future workforce for the future of work, which is, I love that vision. And your mission, I think you'll get there in 5 years' time. 1 million people who have benefited from the Metatalent network. And I look forward to following this evolution and development because you're doing some very valuable work. Thank you for your time.
It means a lot. Thank you so much for your time. I'll look forward to speaking soon. Thank you so much.
If you're interested in knowing more about Citiesabc.com with openbusinesscouncil.org and Fashion ABC, go to our platforms as well, as you can find me on social media and DM me, which is mainly Hilton Supra, on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And do go to the other interviews we have done on YouTube. And don't forget to like and comment. And thank you very much for your time and engaging with this interview on Citiesabc.